Well, good morning. Good afternoon. It's gone a little above time, I guess. Get this camera adjusted a little bit better. If I can do that. Yeah, maybe I can. Listen, I just got finished reading. I'm dressed for success this afternoon. I guess when you're retired, you can do just about what you want to do if it's safe, legal, and moral. Just got through reading chapter 2 in the new textbook. And I've got to say, I really love this textbook. It's much better than any textbook from the New Testament I've ever used before. And I just looked up on it. I got handed this class 3 days before the semester, and they said, the instructor dropped out. Will you teach this? And I said, okay. And I had to scramble around, get a textbook, and just by luck, I got this on Amazon, and it's cheap. It was just $33. And man, it's good. And I wanted to talk to you just a minute about some important issues. I read through it. I thought several times, well, I hope they pay attention to this because this is really an important issue. So I don't know if I'll be able to find those things again right off. One thing I will say is this. The things that are contained in this chapter are absolute. I'm going to have to get a new switcher, are absolutely essential for you to understand the new. In fact, if you don't understand what's being said in this chapter, you don't have a chance of understanding the New Testament. You just don't. You're at loose ends. You have to depend on somebody else to tell you what to believe, which is what most of us do anyway until we study it for ourselves. I know the reason that I went back to school, back to seminary, to get a couple of other degrees was because I got tired of just having to say things at that time from the pulpit, not being sure. Just knowing that, well, this is what old Dr. Smelfungus used to preach, and doing it that way. And I said, I can't do this. I got to know for myself. And so I went back to school. I got a couple of master's degrees, got a doctoral degree, so that I could know things, not just believe what people tell me. Well, if you're going to know the New Testament, you've got to know this chapter. Let me say, read it well, underline it, memorize it if you can, but understand that this is an extremely, extremely important chapter, chapter 2, that you cannot gloss over. And if you're going to have any success in this course from here on in, it's going to be out of this chapter. Well, it does talk about talks about the people, the political parties, the theological, the religious parties of that day. It goes back and it talks a bit about. This is going to be much too long of a video, so I've got to just say a few things and let it go. But it does mention something that's extremely important, and that is the Babylonian exile. If you go back, let's say Jesus is born, although he wasn't born in 0, he's born in about 4 BC, believe it or not, however that works, but it's true. If you go back 500 years before Jesus to almost 600 years, to 587 BC, the Babylonians get tired of being aggravated by the Jews, and they sweep down and they surround Jerusalem and they lay siege to it. They take it, they overrun it, they just destroy it, and they take everything good back to Babylon, which was the way Babylonians did. That's modern day Iran. And so they did that. And the Jews that were taken back were I'm old, were the young, the intelligent, the promising, the capable craftsmen, people who could help Babylon. Those kind of people who were left behind were people like me. Lucky to be able to walk around the block. well, I could go on a lot of other things too. But anyway, they come with age and you'll find them out. But anyway, 587 BC, very important date, the date of what's called the exile. The exile of the Jews. Anyway, 50 years later, Cyrus the Mede, Cyrus the Persian, conquered Babylon, and his modus operandi was different from Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. It was just let them go back. If they want to go back, let them go back. So he said, any of you want to go back to Jerusalem, you want to go back to Judea, go on, I don't care. So a lot of them did. Some of them didn't. In fact, a lot of them didn't, but some did. Well, after this, because, get this in mind, because when Babylon laid siege to Jerusalem and took the Jews back, everybody's hearts. What if somebody did that to the United States? Some, let's just say Lithuania, Norway, whatever, swept through the United States, conquered the United States, burned everything to the ground, and took everybody who was young and beautiful and all those kinds of things back to Norway. Okay, say you're one of the ones that are taken. And well, just so many things come in my mind, and so little time on these videos to say anything about it. Say you're one of the ones that were taken back. Well, what do you think? You've always been a part of Israel, of the children of Israel, the children of Abraham. You've always been a part of that select group that were given a charge in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 through 3. You're given that charge to go on to make disciples of all the world, that you will be a light to the world. You as, not make disciples, but you will be a light to the world, to all other nations, that God will bless you, and through you, all other nations of the world will be blessed. So you've grown up with that. You've grown up with the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, the three parts of the Tanakh, the Jewish holy book. You've grown up with them. You've gone to Jewish school. You've learned all that, and you're just as solid as a rock that all that is true. Well, if it is, what's happened? Has God left you? I mean, look where you are. You're a captive. You're a slave in Babylon. Why? Well, this just causes a great upheaval in the minds of the Jews. And so they had to have a reaction to it. And the reaction was, look, we are in bad trouble here. And by the way, this won't be the only bad trouble they'll experience. They're going to run into, in fact, it's bad or worse trouble than that. They're going to be conquered by the Persians, of course, then by Greece in 332 BC, by Alexander the Great, and then by Rome. And for 500 years, the Jews are going to be under the spike boot of some other nation. Can't do what they want to do, have to pay taxes to another nation, all this. Well, what do? Well, you start to think, surely God's not going to leave us like this. Surely God is going to work something out. Surely God will send a Mashiach, a Messiah, a Savior, to save us and to bring us back to the glory of that King David had in the heyday of Israel. That's what you get the mindset of. So that in Pesach, in the Feast of Pesach, Passover, always one seat is left and one plate is left on the table because the Messiah, and the door is left open so that the Messiah can walk in if he ever chooses to do that to your table. It's always that anticipation. It's called the Messianic hope, the hope for a Messiah. Well, what else happens? Well, you start thinking, if this is all life is I live to be 70, and I've never been really free, and I've never been able to do what I want to do, and I've always had to, and I'm poor as dirt, and surely there must be something better than this. Surely God has a better plan for us than this. And so what happens at the same time that this is happening, Plato in Greece is coming up with a view of reality that's bifurcated. It says there's this level of reality that we can see, but there's another level of reality that we can't see. And what we can see is changing and it's undependable. But what we cannot see is true, is perfect, is eternal. Plato, Greek philosopher. I teach philosophy too, if you ever want to take it. Is coming up with this idea. Well, this is latched onto by these Hebrews that are under siege, and they say, yes, this is it. This life is not all there is. There's another life. There is a heaven. There's also a hell. So the idea of heaven and hell come into being in this what's called the intertestamental period. Well, there's a lot of other things too, but all these set the stage so that when Jesus hits the ground, all this is in place. Everything you read in chapter 2 is waiting for him, and his ministry and his words and his teaching and that of every other New Testament writer then that comes after him. Jesus never wrote anything that comes after him depends on this particular set of circumstances that was at work in Judea, in Palestine, in Samaria, in those days. Don't miss chapter 2. That's this is one of those times when you regret not having in-person class so you could talk for an hour and a half on stuff like this, but I can't do it. You'll have to email me if you want to know anything else. I'll do my best to try to help you. Other than that, send money, please. Send money or pie. I like pie, but money especially.